Welcome everyone. So the first question is, why scripting? This is because computer is a stupid machine. It has no brain. It's we, the programmer, actually gives them intelligence. So there should be a need to communicate with the computer. And that is the reason where we script. Script is a way of communication with the computer. In that way, we communicate with the computer through some programming languages. So in this case, Unity understands only three languages. That is JavaScript, C# script, and BootScript. So in order to communicate with the Unity, you need to choose any of those languages. So what is script and scripting? Script is nothing but a simple text document which contains some source code. Source code are nothing but the command, or we can say a language that we use to communicate with the computer. Here we can clearly see that the script is made up of a simple text document. It contains some code that the computer understand or Unity understand, and that is called source code or a script. It is basically a letter to the computer that the computer reads it. And the process of creating this is called scripting. So if you're creating the letter or creating the program or you're creating a source code, then it's called scripting. Another important question: how computer or Unity understand our script? In this case, we create a script, and that's called scripting. Now once we save the script, as soon as we save the script, the Unity or computer understand the script. As soon as we created our script and save and hop back to Unity, we see a loading icon on the bottom right corner of the Unity. So that is this indication that the Unity is trying to understand your script. In case if Unity had a difficult time understanding your script, since you were very unspecific about something, in that case Unity throws an error. Example can be, you might want to say, alright Unity, move this script, alright, but some might say move this. Now Unity confused at this stage because what you want to move, you were not specific. Alright, you just said move this. Now move what? So in that case Unity throws an error saying you were not very specific. You need to be more specific about that. So that's how the Unity understand. So let's get started with some of the very basic things. Those are variables. Variables are the basic building blocks of every programming language, and no matter you're doing a standard programming or you're doing system programming or you're doing software programming or game programming, it does not matter. Variable are the essential thing in programming. And then what is a variable? Variable is nothing but just a placeholder, or just an, you can think of the variable as a box. So if you consider this example here, these boxes are nothing but a variable. Each boxes are used to store anything you want. Each box has specific name to it. So whenever you want to move any object, you won't refer to that object because computer finds it difficult. Computer only understand that in terms of variables. So if you want to move, say, this ball right here, you would say move the variable b, since the ball is inside the variable. Alright, so you can store any type of object into a variable as far as game programming is concerned, or any other programming. So some of the basic variables now in the standard programming that we do in our institute or college are very basic. They allow you to store character, numbers, and decimal value, and that's it. It's limited to that because we're doing just basic programming, alright, not going any deeper. But in game programming, you can pretty much store anything you want. You can store car, you can store game object, you can store text, GUI, and all that thing. We will understand that in future. So if you were to make more clear about variables, now interestingly, you guys are watching this video and you're storing that information that has been displayed or shown from this video and storing it in your brain. Unfortunately, all this information are stored at a temporary location of your brain. So right after this video, if you don't practice that, or if you just don't wrote it down in some notes, all these things you learn, you will probably forget that. So in other term, all these things that are stored in your temporary location of your brain will be erased, because that place is used to store all the short, temporary stories. Things are stored in that location. So in order to convert into permanent places, you need to practice, okay, or you need to just write down your notes. So right after a week or 2 week, you can come back and you can look at the note and you realize that, all right, this is what it was. So you can see all this information is going right in your brain, and unfortunately will be erased after a week or so. First and foremost, did you notice something? Have you ever created a game that contains 1.5 bullets or half a bullet? I think that's not a good idea to have a half bullet in your game. It doesn't even make sense. So when you're choosing a type of variable, say if you're making a weapon script, in that case you want to store variables, right? You want to store the bullets in your gun, so that's again a variable, right? If you're scripting a weapon system, then you need to store the number of bullets. That needs a variable once again. But from there you can choose either integer or float. But from there it's not wise to choose float, because bullets are never of half type. They are complete, right? So we can have 3 bullets, 2 bullets, 1 bullet, but we cannot have like 1.5 bullet, 3.5 bullets, or 0.5 bullets. One more example when to choose variable, it will be this. Say you're going to school and you're given 3 bags. What bag would you choose? If you got this answer right, you're just great, move ahead. So now let's move on to methods or functions. Now why toName is because some programming languages call it method, some programming languages call it function. Basically both of them does the same job, it's just the name that changes. So in C# you will specifically call it method, and in JavaScript you will call it functions. So what are methods? Let's really understand that with the help of an example here. Imagine this lazy guy here. Just in a moment his little brother passes by, and then right after watching him, this guy gives him a command, and that's get me a drink. Notice something? This is nothing but a method. You command it to any other. In this case we command it to computer, or if you're working with Unity, we command it to Unity that get these things done for me. Alright, methods are used to save tons of time for you. If you were not using a method, you would have to do all this job all alone. Alright, so what happens in here, he just ordered him get me a drink. Then this poor kid right here, I went to the shop and he actually gets confused because that lazy guy wasn't very specific about it. He told him to just bring a drink. Now which one he didn't mention, right? So in this case, if it were Unity, if you just give him a command like alright get me a drink, then Unity 2 would get confused because you were not specific. There are many drinks here. Which one do you like? You want that blood or whatever you want to choose. So in that case there was just one more thing needed for him, and that was this. Get me a drink, and that's red one. So in that case he would just bring the red drink to him. So really this was a quick example of a method. A method is nothing but a command that you give to computer or Unity. Right after listening the command, it just does the job for you. But every time you give him a command, you need to specify some additional information to that, and that is, in this case, was red. If the concept of methods and variable are still not clear, then this example should clear it up. Pay attention to this. Now I want you to imagine something. Say you were painting, right? You're painting, and there's a friend of yours sitting beside you, and then all of a sudden you realize your favorite brush is missing, and then you cannot leave that painting, right? You kind of request your friends to bring that painting for you. So in that case too, you need to be specific, right? You cannot just say alright get me a brush. He will be like, where do you want me to bring it from, or what brush you want me to bring, what color it should be. So you need to specify these details even for human. So computer is no exception. You need to be more specific to that one. Say if I were to tell the computer that bring me a brush, then I would say it like that. Alright, first and foremost it will be this. Go to my bedroom, and there's a cupboard, and inside the cupboard there's a left drawer in which it contains 3 brush, and out of that you need to bring a green brush. So did you notice something? I actually addressed him very specifically so that the human or computer can never get lost, right? So if I were to text down, it would be like that. bedroom, cupboard, left drawer, and green brush. If this was in terms of programming, then it would be like this. It would be bedroom dot cupboard dot left drawer dot get brush, and that's green. I'm using the dot operator. These are called dot operator. So the dot operator are called access operator. They are used to access things. So how the Unity will work, it will go to bedroom, and then since there is a dot syntax, it will think, alright, I need to access one more thing, and then it will search for the other thing, that's the cupboard. So it will think like, alright, I want to get inside the cupboard. So there's one more dot syntax. So it will be like, alright, I want to get inside the left drawer, and there's a dot, and in this case he need to do this. Inside that left drawer you need to do whatever that's written right here, and in that case that's a command, that's a method right here, right? If you recall that example of that lazy guy, which is this, he gave him a command that was done. Okay, there was no specification about location. That was improper. Now the proper and the correct method is this. You need to specify all the location, and at the end you need to specify what you want to get it done from that location. So I told them that get me a brush, and also I provided some additional information that was green. By the way, the information that is provided inside these brackets are called parameter or arguments. Alright, so this is how the dot syntax works, and at the end when you address each and everything, you need to say what actually you want, and in that case comes the methods. Alright, and the additional information that you provide contains always of the variable, right? This was green, which was again was stored in a variable. So that is how it works. So dot syntax is the most important thing in game programming. Alright, now that we've learned a bit about variable, functions, and dot syntax, it's worth to get started with some really very basic examples. So I'm gonna open up Unity, and from there I'm gonna create a script. Now we can use JavaScript, we can use C# script. I can explain both of you, but from the beginner perspective, JavaScript is simple. I'm not saying C# is difficult, but it adds kind of more extra things to it. So it's a good idea to start off with JavaScript. Once you're good at it, you can move on to C# script. So you just call it whatever. I'm gonna call it learn or whatever, and then open it up in MonoDevelop. Alright, this is the workplace where you write down all your scripts. Okay, so a few things to be noticed here. First and foremost, we see hash pragma strict. Well, it doesn't allow you to be unspecific. Alright, it kind of restricts you from being unspecific. If you remove that up, you can be a bit unspecific, but it will kind of give us some sort of glitches. So we see this we can see it's written functions. So these are functions again. Okay, whenever we see any words and along with that two bracket, remember guys, it's always a method or a function. Okay, it's function. So I'm gonna call it function since we're working in JavaScript. So I mean method when I mean function. Okay, so the functions are update and start. So of course the Unity has tons and tons of functions that does the job for us, and also saves a lot of time for us to code. Instead of that, we just write one word and it does the job for us. So really, let's get started in this one. We have two functions here. The function update is used like whatever you write in this one, whatever command you give in this one, in this function, the Unity will do that for you each and every frame. So what I mean by each frame, alright, so if I write here get me a drink or something like that, I don't know, so the Unity will get you a drink each and every frame. Alright, not second, but it's frame. Now what I mean by frame is this. You see right here 148.9 FPS. This means that at each second you will get 148 frames, right? So which means in 1 second it will get you 148 drinks. So now why my FPS was high is because the scene was blank. Anyway, so let's get started really. This function is used at the very beginning before the game starts. So if you wanna say disable some object, enable them, then you use things in here. Anyway, okay, so let's get started really. I'm gonna call some I'm gonna give an example of variables first and foremost. So anytime we want to create a variable, we use the word var, which stands for variable. As soon as we use these words, the Unity gets to know, alright, this guy is using a variable or a box to store things in it, right? And then the next thing comes up here is the name of the variable. If you remember the example of the boxes, where we had some boxes and the names written on it, so in this case we need to name this box. Alright, so I'm gonna call it my box, right? Also, did you notice something? Its variables are of one word. Alright, if you want to make sentence, you never have to have a space in between. So if I were to write this, it will give me an error because you can only have one word. If you want to write a sentence, then you need to stick it all along. Say you want to write my first box, then this is how it's work. Alright, now why I didn't wrote one word and instead I wrote sentences, because if you write it this way, it's a good practice because it is kind of self-explanatory. As soon as you look at this variable, you'll get to know what it's capable of doing. It's a first box and it's going to be storing things in it, right? If I were to write this bullet, you can still understand what it is, right? If you write B, no one can understand what is B stands for, you know. So you have to be specific about it. Alright, right after this, my bullet, you need to say, you need to write 2 colon, these are called colon. So after that, here what it comes, what type of variable want to use, I mean what things you will be storing in it. Will you be storing integer, and in that case it's gonna be int, or will you be storing float in it? So as soon as you write this, this variable is created in which you can store float only. You cannot store else thing. Alright, but I'm gonna create a variable that can hold camera here. Okay, so I'm gonna call it camera, and there you go, we created a variable here. So if I save this and go back to Unity, Unity will first try to understand the script. So you can see the icon appear, it means Unity is understanding it. So as soon as it understands that, we will, let me just assign this script to this game object because that's the only one in the scene. So you can see that my first bullet has a variable, and this is a placeholder. I can store anything what I want in this one, but only of the type camera. As you can see, it's written camera here. So I'm gonna assign this, it will work. But if in case I create a light, alright, I create a light and just try to drag it and drop it over, it will not gonna work because it's of camera type only. So if you were to store the light in this case, you will change the variable type. You will say, alright, I want to store instead, you will say I want to store a light in here. Then in that case it allows you to store light. Then you can just go ahead and store the directional light or whatever light you want to store, and in that case the camera will not gonna work because camera is a camera, it's not a light. Okay, and light is a light, it's not a camera. So you need to be specific, so now Unity knows that. Okay, also, did you notice something? It's written my space first space bullet. Now because this is a good practice habit, always start your variable with the lowercase. Alright, and then if there's another word in that, you call you write it in uppercase. See, and if your variable consists of multiple words, then the beginning of each word should be of uppercase. That's gonna give a good idea to Unity that alright, this variable has one word but it has, you know, multiple words in that single word, so it will kind of space it out for you so that you can now understand much better. Now we have that variable. Okay, now we saw that we have created a variable of type light in which we can store only light and not camera. It will not fit in it. So let's make let's have a type that support both of them. So in that case we have one type that's called game object. Now if we store this and go back to Unity, you see it's now of type game object. Now can I move my camera onto it? Yes, I can. Can I move my light into that box? Yes, I can. I made it a variable of type game object in which everything I can store. This is because Unity understands each and every object as a game object. It doesn't know that this is a camera, neither does it know that it's light. Alright, Unity is that dumb, right? It treats both of them as a game object. Okay, so but when I was specific that alright, I want this variable in which I want to store only camera, so it gets to know alright, this object is ultimately a game object, but if you be very specific, then there is a camera, it's a camera really. And if you see at that one, this is also in game object, but if you want to be very specific, then it's in light. Alright, so in that case you can have that. Functions, alright, or methods. Just now I told you that functions are, or methods are just a one word and it does all the job for you. Okay, that was not about it, but there's also one more thing. Okay, you can create your own function, which means you can tell the Unity, alright Unity, whenever I'm gonna give you this command, you need to do this. So let me tell you quickly what it does, but before doing that, let me just show you what this functions does. Whatever I write in this function, the Unity will do that. Alright, you don't have to give this update command to Unity. Alright, Unity does that every frames, like I said earlier. Alright, so you don't have to call this function, or in simple terms, you don't have to command the Unity, like Unity update, you don't have to call that. It is done by on its own. So let me just show you an example of it. Alright, so if you look at the scene up here, I've created a ground, I've created a point light. Okay, so here's the thing I'm gonna be doing now is I'm gonna be making this point flicker. Alright, I'm gonna make it a flicker. This is what I'm gonna be doing. Okay, it's gonna flicker that light. So for that, first and foremost, what I'm gonna need is I'm gonna need a box for that, and that means a variable in which I'm gonna be storing this light. So whenever I want to give that flicker of effect, I'm not gonna be saying, alright Unity, you know that point light there, you need to give it a flicker effect. Instead, I'm gonna be saying, take this box, and whenever I name this box, you need to work on this box only. Alright, when I call with that name, you need to work on this box only. So we're gonna be doing that real quick. So let's have that. I already have that in my box, but instead I'm gonna make it light to be more specific. And Unity loves when you are specific about something. So we need to change this intensity. So for that, first and foremost, let me attach the script to it, so Unity knows on what object it is to be performed. So if I'm applying to this, then it will be performed on this. Okay, so now let me just assign this into the box. Now the my box has this light, so I'm gonna tell to Unity, alright Unity, go to whatever is stored in that box, just go inside that object, and I'm gonna be saying go inside the light. Inside, you see there's a light section first and foremost, so I'm gonna tell him go to the light, and in that one go in the intensity. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna exactly say. So first and foremost, I'm gonna tell alright Unity, go to my box dot, that what it means, right? Go inside the box, and then inside light, and then we need to change the intensity. Dot intensity. This is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be changing the value. Okay, so I'm going to be changing this randomly. You see, it's going to be changing this randomly. So random dot range 1 to 9. So that's it. That's what I did. I told the Unity, alright, just go to my box, and inside that light, and then intensity, and then equal operator means we're setting the intensity value, and we're setting it randomly. So which means the Unity will change the value randomly between 1 to 9. So anytime it can choose any value, and it's gonna do that repeatedly since it's in the update function. So like I said, it's gonna be done more than frame. So you can see it's 223, but that's just because the scene is empty. So let's see that effect. Alright, also notice on this value too, so when I play it, this is what it's gonna be. This is what the result will be. You see, it's being completely random from 1 to 9. That's giving us not the 100% flicker effect, but it's good. So that's how we learn, guys, about variables. They are used to store pretty much anything. Alright, and then we learn about functions. So let me just give you one more. Alright, like I said, we can create our own function, so I'm gonna do it right now. I'm gonna call it function. So whenever I write this word function, you need to understand that alright, he's gonna write his own command. Alright, so whenever he call me with that command, I need to do exactly what's written inside. So I'm gonna call this change. Again, it's gonna be one word, so if you want to use multiple words, stick them along. Alright, so it's gonna be change color, so it's one word. Alright, so also notice in the function, the first word begins with the uppercase. In variable, the first word begins with the lowercase. It's a good habit. You can choose whatever you want to follow. So I'm gonna first take it out. I'm gonna do this time something different. I'm gonna change the color of that object, so which is this property. You can see this is the property. I'm gonna change it and different sort of things. So if it's red right now, so I'm gonna say this again. I'm gonna refer to the box. The Unity doesn't understand what I'm gonna say to the point or whatever, so I'm gonna refer to the box once again. So it's my box. Oops, my box dot. Again, I'm telling him to go inside that light property, but this time instead of going into intensity, I want him to go to the color property. So I'm gonna say light, yeah, dot color this time. There you go. Now I'm gonna assign it a new color. Alright, equals mean assigning. I'm gonna be changing the value of that color to some other color. So for that, I'm gonna be calling this color dot what color do I choose? Anything, it doesn't matter. Magenta, I don't know. Alright, but here's the thing, guys. The function change is created by us. Alright, so whenever you want to call this, or whenever you want the functions, or sorry, whenever you want the Unity to listen to this function, you need to actually give him command. Alright, these commands are pre-written by the developer of Unity, so Unity kinda obey this without having to, you know, kinda give the commands. What I mean here, this update command, we don't have to call it. Alright, but this command we have to definitely call it, because we have created on our own. So you're gonna tell inside this command, because this function is, like I said, executed every time, or has been listened by Unity every time. So what we're gonna be saying in here is this: change color. Alright, did you saw that? If you remember from the example of that lazy guy, once again, that is how we told get me a drink, and there was two parentheses, or you can say round brackets. Same things here. What the semicolon is, it's a full stop. So if we were talking in English, the Unity would say, please change the color of that object, and it will be full stop. So you know what's full stop, right? If you know English, then you definitely know what's full stop. It's similar in terms of programming, and in terms of this JavaScript and most of the language, it means a full stop. So this means that I'm done saying. I don't have to say anymore in this statement, right? So again, and do it. So also, if you notice one more thing, guys, is from this one, that this guy was wrong because he wasn't very specific, right? And there was one more thing needed every time we make a thing, and that's in parameter. Now, since these functions are created by us, okay, this bracket is empty. We didn't set anything to Unity that additional information will be provided inside this. So definitely we are the creator of this function, and we didn't set that alright, additional information will be passed here. So that is not required. If I set it here that we need an object, alright, then definitely we do need that. So this is how it is. We just call that function from it. Alright, so as soon as the game starts, the Unity listen to these words, it's just definitely gonna jump up here, and it will do whatever written in here. Okay, it's gonna do that for us, but it's gonna change that color once. And just as soon as it play, it will turn to magenta. There you go. It changed it. It knew it that we did that. So this is how it works. We just call it with one name. Say if we were to, you know, give more additional information to that, then it will be this. We need one more. We need to create a variable up here, and that's color. Alright, so we will pass we'll pass the color that we want to assign instead. In here we're gonna just simply say color dot yellow. So let me see if we're getting error or not. Alright, we didn't got an error. So here's what happening. Okay, like I said in that example, where is that? Yeah, that thing was needed. Okay, that was definitely needed up there because we were very unspecific in this one. But here we created this function, and now we are saying one more thing inside that bracket, that whenever I give this command to Unity, I also have to provide an information in here. Alright, and now what's that information? Again, I've created a variable here. Okay, that's called my color, and that is of type color, which means this box will only gonna hold colors, right? And so as soon as I give this command to Unity, say Unity change color, and then I'm saying color dot yellow, I'm saying change the color to yellow. Alright, so it goes here and then it reads this command. Alright, he just does what is written. It goes to my box, go to light, go to color, and then assign my color. My color is a variable. So what's happening is I'm just you know, transferring the data in this box to the box of the color. So whatever is inside this my color box, I'm assigning it to the color. So that's how it is. If I play it, don't want to save it, if I play it, it will turn to yellow. See, that's how it works. I really hope that you learned something. If you have any query or doubt, then please let me know. Go to my website. There's a suggestion page too. You can suggest anything what you want to. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.